All right, YouTube, this isn't going to be a typical video I make. This is about should you be a plumber or not, as you can tell by the title. Um, just got back from having Thanksgiving with my family and stuff the past couple of days. My nephew, 16, says he wants to be a plumber, and I don't want him to be. I certainly don't. I want him to go to, a university and get a job where he's not going to have to work his ass off and dig ditches like his uncle did. That said, there are some people I'd recommend it for. If my nephew, if he decides to skip around for 4 or 5 years and party and not give a shit about his future, not go to college and things like that, and then he's 23 and don't know what to do, yeah, come on. It's time. Come with me, get in the truck. We're gonna fucking make a man, make a man out of you. But I wouldn't recommend it, boys. I would say your first decision would be to get a job that isn't dependent on your body. That's the thing that I didn't think about until the day I woke up. I was 25 when I woke up. My back hurt. I went to bed. It was the day after my 25th birthday, and I woke up not from partying or anything. I woke up like 5 in the morning, and I went to bed at like 1 in the morning, and I woke up because my back hurt, and that shit has not gone away. And I'm 32 now, so that's 7 years later. I'm still dealing with that back shit, and I'm only 32. Uh, but I've been doing this 16 years. I dropped out of school when I was 16. Been doing it full time. So yeah, you can make money. It is a great trade, but it's for fuck ups, boys. It's not for this. This isn't my plan. I mean, now it's one thing. Like my son, perhaps if my son's 3 years old. So if down the road I build a company up and I want him to take over it, and I can secure him a good position without the labor. Yeah, through nepotism or some shit. Yeah, go for it. But in my nephew's case, he's gonna have to come up like I did, digging ditches. I mean, it is a hard job, and the only way to be successful is I mean, you can milk it and be successful to a degree depending on what your version of success is. I mean, a lazy plumber. If you're in the union in Dallas, you can still make $32 an hour, $33 an hour, some shit like that. That's the base scale. So I mean, you can just milk it and make a decent living. But if you want to excel and make top dollar, you're gonna have to grind. You're gonna have to grind. Um, you can make a ton of money. There's several different types of plumbing. Number one, there's construction and service is the biggest separating factors. Service plumbers work on the building once it's complete, and you're coming in running sewer machines, fixing leaks, remodels. New construction, you're building it from the ground up. New construction is significantly easier. It's really easy to run a pipe to an end point. It's very hard to repair in the middle. That's where service is more difficult, and service plumbers typically make more money. They get company trucks, you get a company phone, you get more perks, more benefits, and certainly higher pay. But you have to deal with shit, and that's why construction plumbers will say, "Oh, I don't want to do that. Those guys playing shit." And then as far as construction goes, there's two types of construction. You have, residential light commercial style, which is going to be in the United States, or at least in Texas, your wood frame. I call it tight construction. I hated doing houses and like restaurants like Denny's, and I've done a ton of those type of gas stations where it's real tight construction, wood frame, and everything's got to fit in, and it's kind of a loose plan. And then there's commercial construction, which is that shit is rigid. There's 100 people involved in the planning. There's a safety meeting every morning. You work from 7 to 3:30. It's real structured. A ton of safety stuff. In the light commercial residential world, they're cowboys out there, man. I've done both. I'm in the union now. Union's a good route. Union's a good route. Now, if you're like an entrepreneur, if you're the type of guy that's like, no, I want to grind and make as much money as possible, the best route is to do residential service work. There's a ton of companies that people who say like Roto Rooter or Rescue Rooter. ARS is a national, but fuck, I think ARS is international now. American Rescue Service. Those companies, I've worked for one. I'm not going to say their name because no one will know them, but actually a pretty big one in Dallas. And I'm in 2017. I think I made like 140 grand in commission. Now I was pulling my hair. I started going bald. That's what took this fucking little patch of hair out of my head. But I made about 140 grand in 1 year. But you're having to take people. I mean, you're not taking people. You give them options, But I had an old lady literally grab her heart and sit down and like, I mean, she had to take a seat, and we were debating on, do we need to get an ambulance for her, because I gave her a price for a water heater $2,200, and I told her I can repair it for $700, which was still high, but this was a company that's a flat rate. It costs what it costs, $700 repair. And I even told this lady, I was like, look, you could probably get a better price from a smaller company that has, less overhead and expenses. It's like, so, a lot of our cost is because of that commercial you saw on TV to call me. And so I tried to push her away, but but I had to tell her we had financing, and she's like, oh, I can finance it. Okay, that shit didn't sit well with me. I went home and I kind of felt bad about making this lady, because my in-laws own a company. They had to come put that heater in for $1,200, save her $1,000. So yeah, I made good money, but the customer pays that. They're paying for that. Because it's not just you making the money. It's the corporate people at that big service company making that money too. So if you can sell and you're okay with it, which I'm to a degree okay with it. Whenever it's rich people, I'm giving them an option. I'm giving them white glove service. They're cool with it. But if you don't want to sell, which I talked way too long about that, way too fucking long about that, construction is the way to go. Now, I don't recommend the residential new construction and light commercial new construction. Those guys are kind of the lowest paid plumbers in the industry. Like residential new construction plumbers, a lot of those guys that, they're making $18, $19 an hour. If you go commercial, you're going to make about $30 an hour with decent benefits if you're at a bigger company, because most of those big commercial companies are bigger outfits, because you have to have that, like $5 million umbrella insurance plans and safety guys and all that shit. So if you go to those commercial companies, you can make about $30 an hour. And this is, 2020 pandemic season. So that's about what you can make. If you go to the union, the scale's 32, 38 an hour. Now, union's a different beast. If you're just starting out and you want to get into the union, you have to go to the apprentice school. So you'll get a job, but regardless if you get a job or not, you're gonna have to join that apprentice school and go twice a week. It's like a Tuesday and a Thursday. You got to go from 5 o'clock to 8:30 for 30 weeks a year for 5 years. You have to do that school. You don't get paid for it. You don't have to pay for it, but if you do go in the union buys all your tools. You're gonna make top dollar. You'll start out at like 17 an hour, and you get like a $2 raise or a dollar raise every 6 months. Well, you start out at 17, and in 5 years, you're making 32 regardless. As long as you keep going to school and graduate the school, which is easy, as long as you go. I would recommend union for guys that kind of want to. It's almost like a city job. You know what I mean? It's like you got your pension. The standards are real the expectations are lower as far as hard labor, but it's harder to advance. You get in there and you get to a journeyman scale, and that's where you're at, which is enough money to take care of a family. But that's kind of where you're going to be for the rest of your life. Now, I am in the union. I'm in the service side, which is different because the union is mostly commercial construction. Being in the service side, I get scale plus perks, because there's about fucking 10 service plumbers in my union in Dallas. There's like fucking 10 of us. I mean, there's very few. So we do get decent money. We get paid several dollars over scale, and we get the perk. Like in the union, you don't get paid vacation. Like you're off on Thanksgiving, you don't get paid for it, unless you're on the service side. You have to drive your own car to work, unless you're on the service side or superintendent. So, there's several avenues to go. But the main takeaway is this shouldn't be your first choice. Your first choice should be something that isn't going to deteriorate your body, and something that you could do in a wheelchair, something that you could do, without your body. So that way, as you break down, because what I'm afraid of is I still want to start my own company, but what happens if say even if I am successful, I am successful in my own company, but I throw my back out and I really can't, I can't do shit anymore. I got to count on other people. And, what's probably going to make my company successful is my hard work, not other people's hard work. So once that goes away, the product's gone. The company's, unless I can manage the dog shit out of everybody, the company's shot, unless I can really build it. So, I think it's a gamble, unless you're trying to, just eke out a decent existence and you've already kind of fucked up and it's too late for college and you got to start earning, if you were in my position, where you kind of had to, that's one thing. But as far as my nephew, no, motherfucker, we're going to get you in a collared shirt, dude, and not in a fucking blue one. That's definitely the route I would say to go. Sorry, this video is fucking unreal long. Nobody's going to watch this shit.